Welcome to the Grinder's Verdict podcast. I am your host, Grinder, and we have a guest for one other episode. Now, before we move on to the episode and before we move on to the podcast itself, let me just mention a couple of things here that you guys should definitely check out. We have Patreon with exclusive podcasts that are specifically for Patreon. We have Twitter for contacting me, for checking out when new episodes are posted. We have Facebook for the same thing, for the same reason. Podcast is pretty much available on all major platforms. We have Instagram for the same reason of Twitter and Facebook. And we have YouTube where I sometimes post episodes that are, well, I feel like they could do good on YouTube, and then I go on headliner.app and I make a video for those podcasts and I upload them onto YouTube so that people on YouTube can also give it a listen. But I do not put everything on YouTube. So for most of these things, you can check them out on /Grinder's Verdict. However, for Facebook, it's facebook.com/Grinder's Verdict podcast. Remember that, okay? Now, for the sponsorship, are you looking for energy? Grinding energy to get on with your gaming or any other tasks that might require some dedication? Well, look no further. Gamer Grind Coffee has got you covered. Gamer Grind Coffee has multiple flavors that will guarantee to meet all your needs. It's premium, freshly roasted coffee, and best of all, at a great price. Head on over to coffee.grindersverdict.com and get yours today. Now, going over to the podcast. My guest is Mark Kumar, and you might have seen me publish the podcast that I did with him, or my guesting in his podcast. And hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing? First of all, thank you so much for having me in there. I know we are gonna be having a blast, so let's get this party started.
All right. So, how exactly, before we move on to live stuff, let's start with podcasting. All right. So, how did you start with podcasting? What made you get into podcasting?
It was actually a really interesting story because what happened was that I literally just, by the way, I just started podcasting last November 2019. And then prior to that, I have been listening to all different kinds of podcasts, like from Facebook to fitness to advertisement, you name it, every single one that you could possibly imagine, I have listened to it. And then I listened to podcasts for 3 consecutive years. And in those years, I have learned so much to the point where I got addicted to listening to a podcast because no matter where I went, I always found a way that like, let me go tune into this podcast so I can learn something. For example, if I am going for a walk and I'm like really into fitness, so I look for podcasts that are at least an hour or more long because that way when I go for my long walk, which is like 8 to 12 miles long, and I can knock out like 2 or 3 episodes of like good 1 45 minutes or an hour worth of podcast. So I really look for ones that are like that long and listen to it. And then if I'm driving, I found myself tuning into the podcast and listening to it because I felt like their podcast is like your university on feel or on travel, whatever you want to call it, because the podcasts are multi-purpose. Unlike your video and your text, which you have to read, you have to dedicate some time in order for you to consume information. With podcasts, you just plug in your ear and off you go. You can walk the door, go for a walk. You can even drive and listen to your car radio, and you can do pretty much anything. Clean the house if you want. Anything you could literally do it. Listen to it while you're cooking. It's multi-purpose. That's why I absolutely love it. And after listening for 3 years, I felt like I had so much information that I want to give back, just like the people who gave back to me in the sense when I was listening to their podcast. I'm like, I need to give this information back. So I created my very first podcast, which was the Mark Kumar podcast, and it was totally dedicated for entrepreneurs who wanted to create a digital empire. And in case people who may not know what the hell in the world is digital empire, is pretty much is you sharing your advice, helping someone else to better their life or get X result, whatever the X result would be. So for example, let's say if you want to learn about how to edit pictures, I can tell you how you can take your information, in this case would be photography information, how to edit pictures like Photoshop and things in that nature. I can show you how you can take that information, your knowledge specifically, and turn it into a digital product, whether it'll be a online course where you teach other people by showing a screen share, or one-on-one coaching. That's what my podcast is so about. So ever since I started this, it's been a unique, amazing, outstanding experience because I have met so many different people for so many different countries. It truly has been rewarding, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So that was the beginning of my journey.
Wow, that's great. So, have you seen yourself like uh exchanging music for podcasts? Like you see yourself listening to more podcasts sometimes than music?
Absolutely. I don't even listen to music anymore. It's kind of like before the podcasting world, I used to listen to like a radio station. And the funny thing was, like, if you listen to, it doesn't matter which radio station you listen to, no matter where you are in the world, they will play the same music or a song over and over and over again. And within an hour, you probably hear the same song like 2 times.
Yeah,
And if you
that's true.
go on like a road trip, a long road trip, 5 hours, you will hear the same song. Like, oh my God. It's like by the time the third time comes, you already know what song it is. You could memorize the words and like, okay, now I don't need to say. So I
And
don't
one
even listen to it anymore. Radio is
absolutely. And one of the greatest things about podcasts, I guess, it's that it allows people to express themselves, right? So there's literally an abundance of so many different topics and so many different things, right?
absolutely, man. Then there's like for some people, including myself and other people that I know of, it's like almost therapeutic where they talk about things and then they feel good after they talk about it. So that's number one. Number two, when they talk about things, other people who tune into their shows and they connect with them. Because the thing is, like, the way I always tell people, if you want to create a podcast, have a conversation that you wouldn't mind having it with your friend going on Friday night. If you can have that kind of a atmosphere, that kind of energy, trust me, anybody who listens to your podcast show, they're going to be either drawn to you or away from you. And those are the people you want to attract, the one that's going to be drawn to you. So if you share your personality and people are like, oh my God, Mark is great. I love it. I love his enthusiasm, love his energy. And I want to listen to it. Like, for example, whoever your people who listen to, whoever your favorite character or a movie or an artist that you always listen to it. Why is that? Because you love their energy, their persona, their personality. That's why you listen to it. And the podcast is no different. In this platform, podcasting, nowadays, a lot of people are starting podcasts, right? So nowadays, you have the ability to get behind the mic and share your thoughts, your feelings, your opinion. And believe you me, I'm sure when you start sharing, there's going to be at least 1, 2 people at the very beginning that are going to start listening. Like, I agree with you 100%, right? And then as you start sharing more and more of your ideas, you're going to build this small group of following, which is going to turn into this a big group of following. And then you're like, wow, So podcasting, I feel like is the best tool for not just you for you to create your following, but also build your personal brand. And it's also really good for your building your business as well. Because depending on what services that you offer, like for example, I offer how do you create your digital empire by sharing your advice. People who are in the marketplace right now wanting to learn how can they create digital product. They listen to my stuff, they like my stuff, they get few tips out of it, then they go apply it, and then they get result, and then like, oh, this is cool, I want more of it. And they go to my website, which is markkumar.com. They click on contact, they contact me, I'll work with them one-on-one. So it's like a, if you think about it, it's like a pre-sale kind of thing. It's like if you want to get a new computer, what do? You hop on a computer, your cell phone or something like that, and then you're like, hey, I'm in the market for looking for a computer. And then you go research what kind of computer you want, well, how many RAM, your graphic cards, memory, whether you want a regular hard drive or SSD. And then by the time you get to your computer store, it's like a transactional thing. Hey, here's the money. This is what I want. You got it. Great. We're done. That's what podcasting can do for your business. It could be your way to educate your ideal clients or buyers. And by the time they get to you, it'd be like a one-on-one easy transaction sale. You don't have to convince them like, I am the greatest. They already know you're the greatest. That's why they're coming to you.
Wow, that's great. So essentially, that's what you do with the Simple Podcast Cloud? Or is
Simple
it
Podcast
completely
Cloud is
different?
actually totally. It's kind of similar, but I created that platform simply out of my own need, and it's really interesting story why I created it. Because when I was in the marketplace to look, when I was in the beginning stage of my podcast career, where I was like, hey, I need to go and get my podcast out there. So those of you who are just starting out or may potentially be thinking about creating your own podcast, the way that it works is you as a podcaster or future podcaster, you create your own content. And then however you do that, you create your content, and then the content will be at the end of the day, it will be the shape of your MP3. That's what most hosting provider will do it. And then what will you have to do is you have to go get a podcast hosting provider that can host your MP3, and then they will give you this URL, which is your RSS feed, which has all the information related to your shows, your podcast, and then show notes and things of that nature. Then you take that RSS feed, go to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, iHeart, and you just save it in there. And that's that. And then when I was in the marketplace looking for this podcast host, or you can call it the middle person, there were so many different variety of people, companies out there that will tell you, like, for example, Lipson is one of the biggest one. They're like, hey, we'll give you, you can, let's say, with Lipson, you have plan X, whatever the X plan is. Like, they want to charge you, let's say, $30 per month for it. And then you could only upload 4 episodes per month. I know a guy who literally waits until midnight, until the end of the month, so he can upload another episode. He cannot do it before that, which is crazy. Like, I wouldn't even imagine myself do that. So that's just one of the options, right? Then there are the other companies who are like, hey, we'll give you unlimited shows you can upload, but it could only have, let's say, 10,000 people listen to it, and that's that. And then those of you who are just starting out, be like, 10,000 people, that's a lot, man. That's like, wow, if I could get 10,000 people listen to my show, that'd be great. But trust me, when you start to create your episodes, which is your part of your shows, and then you start to create this following, and those 10,000 numbers are going to get added fairly quickly. And then you're like, I need more. And then the other side is like, hey, your podcast episode needs to be only, let's say, 20 megs, 30 megs, and they give you a storage limitation and things like that. So many, what I call is these little devils out there. They literally are not wanting you to grow and grow your podcast as well. So because of that, I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to create my own company where podcasters will have the ability to grow their podcast because they're putting in all this hard work. You should not be penalized because you are growing. So for us, Simple Podcast Cloud, you have one account. You pretty much get everything unlimited. In case you're wondering, what in the world is everything unlimited? You get unlimited shows, episode, bandwidth, and also you get a professional website. So you might be thinking, like, what is a show? Show is like, for example, let's say January 1st come. You are like, oh my God, January 1st come, I'm like so passionate about getting into fitness. You want to go and create a passion, your podcast for fitness. That be considered show number one. Come February, you have another thing called Facebook ad. Now you are all of a sudden you're passionate about Facebook. You want to go and create a passport podcast about Facebook ads. So that'd be number two show. So you can have with us, you get unlimited shows. You can create a podcast about if you want sleeping or if that's what your little heart desire. And believe it or not, there's actually a podcast out there that will help you sleep better. I am not even kidding. And there's another one that will help you take a shower and relax. Like, how cool is that? I mean, if your idea is better than that, I'm sure you can create a really good show.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different podcasts that I've seen that I've been like, what? Really? I mean, you just look at YouTube and you look at all the things that exist on YouTube. Like, I'm saying this because you don't even have to like look too deep into podcasting to see how crazy things are in terms of like content creation and things like that, because you know, ASMR to help you sleep. There's videos now like one of the types of videos now on YouTube that is kind of popular. It's tents with rain falling on them uh, for 10 hours, you know? And I mean, it's relaxing. It's relaxing as hell. Me personally, I love to go to a festival when I used to go to festivals. And when I was laying in the tent and the rain was falling, it was really, really relaxing. So that's really cool that you started that, because like you said, I feel like before starting my podcast, I was looking all over the place for something like that. And it was really difficult to find something that offered, you know, a possibility of doing that. Because, again, like, just like you said, it's just one has this, but then doesn't have that, and the other has that, but doesn't have this. And people end up being confused and like, what do I go for? And on Facebook, you have the podcasting groups. There's a bunch of them. And you see people all the time. What's the best platform for me to go for? Because I want to start a podcast and I don't know what to do. So it's really cool that you're doing that. And I hope your platform is you know, going up there, and hopefully we'll see it as a recommended platform for new podcasters and even podcasters who are already you know, popularized and all that stuff. So yeah, again, so that's covered. Now I wanted to cover as well the stuff that you do in regards to basically the, like you said when we did our podcast, the helping stuff when people, you know, with mindsets and things like that, the I don't know what to call it, so help me out there. You know, what's the exact terminology for that?
So it would be like a mindset. You had it right. So it's like, let's say if somebody wants to, so which route would you like to go into? Somebody on the business side or personal side? We can go both if you like. You tell me which one you want to do.
Definitely professional in this case.
Okay, so all right. So in professional one, so The way that it works is, let's say the individual will give somebody a name, so we create this fictitious character. So what name would you like to give this person? You can pick any name.
Martin. I don't know.
Any huh?
Martin.
What was the name?
Martin.
Martin. Okay, Martin. Martin is what kind of job does Martin have? So we can really, really deep dive into it.
Any job?
A job, Pacific one. Doesn't matter.
Okay, Martin is a producer.
Okay, music producer, song producer. I mean, music producer, I guess,
audio
whatever. That's fine.
producer, you know, he just produces audio. You know, if
Produce
someone
audio.
has
So
a
he's an audio
podcast,
engineer. Would that be fair to?
I think engineer is a little bit more complex because the engineer can also, in my opinion, I think the engineer can also go produce audio for bands and live shows. So let's say this guy just sits at home and can do commissions and can just, you know, hey, I just did this podcast, Martin, can you produce it? Or, you know, he sits at home and someone just composed a song and recorded it, and he gets it sent to him and he does a little bit of mastering to it.
Gotcha. So that's his professional. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that's what he does professionally. Professionally meaning he goes to a job where he clocks in 9 to 5, and that's what he does. So if that's Martin, so he has a 9 to 5 job. He produces music at work or helps people produce their podcast and make it sound really nice. And if he really truly loves what he does, which is the most important thing, and then at the, let's say 9 to 5, he does that. Then after he's been doing for, let's say, 2 years, right? So he has a really, really good experience. And then what he wants to do now is the first step, what I would say is create a side hustle, which means that 9 to 5, he's going to work on his day job. Then from 6 to 10, he's going to go and say, I have the skill, which means that I can go help other people out. And before he can go help other people out, what I would recommend him to do is take the midnight test. You might be wondering, what in the world is a midnight test? Midnight test is if I ask Martin while he's sleeping in the middle of the night, wake him up while he's dreaming about being on a beach, drinking margarita and hanging out with the girls or doing whatever he wants to do. And then I'll wake him up. And then the first few seconds, be like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why is he waking me up? After he, like, for 10 seconds, then ask him a very specific question related to podcast production. And if he can answer it within 20 seconds, then he has passed the midnight test. That means all the knowledge that he knows it so well that if you can wake him in the middle of the night, he can answer it, which is a good place to go. That means you know your skills very well. But if you cannot pass the midnight test, then you shouldn't even worry about creating a side hustle. You need to work on your skill. That way, you know it so well because you are going to be asked so many different questions or so many different ways that you be like, you don't want to be that guy or that girl. Because if you're that guy or the girl, people nowadays are very, very smart. They're gonna judge you in a matter of 3 seconds. And if they figure out like you don't know what the hell you're talking about, they're gonna be like disregard you and tell everybody else about it. So knowing your skill extremely well is just a prerequisite before you can start your business. Because what happens is now, if you know your skill, let's say Martin has passed that midnight test, and now he's really good with his skill. The next step, what Martin has to do is like get from what I call as from employee mindset into a business owner mindset. Because the employee mindset, let's say Martin, when he goes to his work 9 to 5, he's given a task that he has to perform based on the skill. In this case, skill is producing really good audio from a podcast. That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to worry about business, marketing, payroll, insurance, and all of those things. But that's later down the road. But I'm just saying there's different kind of mindset. So if you're just doing like, hey, I am good and that's that, then you are just employee. Then you need to transition into a business mindset. And how do you do that? You go and create what I said before is create a side hustle. When you go tell other people, hey, my name is Martin and I'm a podcast producer. I would love to help you create your podcast, produce your podcast really good. First thing people are gonna like, who the hell are you? Have you done any seen? Can I see any of your past work? Right. And then comes the how much do you charge? Number three, how long will you take to deliver that podcast to me? So that's how Martin can get your first client. If Martin doesn't have a client, nobody is going to hire him. So how can a Martin get his very, very first client? Because if you learn, like this is the key trick, which most people overlook. If you can get your very first client, and then after that, you rinse and repeat, and it's a smooth sailing from there. And then the way that I tell other people to get your very, very first client, go to this platform, a little platform called Facebook, and then join in the Facebook groups. Whatever your industry, I'm sure there is a particular group for that. So let's say Martin could join his podcast group because that's his industry. He's like, hey, and then basically what you need to do is this Martin group person has to do is go join at least 5 podcast groups on Facebook and then just read what people are asking for. There, if he spends, let's say, 30 minutes per day for 5 days, that's 2.5 hours that he's going to spend. And then while reading those blog posts or those Facebook questions, Martin is going to know what kind of problems people are having that he can help solve. And then what he can do after that is go in and answer those questions. And then at the end of his answer, he can politely ask, if you need more information, message me. I will love to help you out. Because what that will do is it will take that person who is potentially interested. If that person messaged Martin, then that person obviously found whatever Martin gave the information to that person valuable. And then he wants to talk to Martin and get more inside information. That's where Martin knows that he's onto something. If somebody's willing to get off the Facebook group, get on the personal messenger and ask for help, and they're like, okay, tell me more. And then while Martin is on the Facebook messenger, provide more help. And then after, let's say if the person asks 3 more questions, you give that person a detailed information that you possibly can. And then at the end of the session, let's say your conversation, then you could politely ask and say, hey, I'm sure right about now, you know that I am an expert in this particular field. If you like, I can help you more and give you more insight if you just sign up for this XYZ Zoom call. And then if they signed up, and then from there, you can ask them to like, hey, I don't want to charge you arm and leg, but at the same time, I value my time. So what if I make you a fair deal? You're going to be my first client, and I don't want to charge you an arm and leg. So what if you just give me $50 for whatever help that I can provide you to better your particular thing? What that will do is that will give Martin the confidence to say his skill is monetizable. He can charge $50 for that one session. And then at the end of that session, this is the key thing. Ask for that first client to give him a video testimonial in which the person says, whatever the person's name is, let's just say Joe Schmo. My name is Joe Schmo, and Martin helped me, whatever that thing is, Martin helped me create a really professional sounding podcast. And I would highly recommend him to other people. So it's a 4-part. One is the person's name. Second is your name, person who is asking for a testimonial. And the third is how did that person help you? And number 4, which is the crucial one, would you recommend Martin to somebody else? And if he does that 5 times, his confidence level is going to go in. And then let's say 5 times, $50 each, that's what, $250, something like that. And then That's $250 he had. Then he could take those 5 testimonial, create a simple web page, and anytime anybody wants, and if he continues this process without going into the ad, and that's like a whole another ball game. If he wants to rinse and repeat, because he knows how to get the first customer, right? So he goes to the Facebook Messenger, and then it's like, hey, by the way, here's my particular URL that you can go. And then when the person goes there, they will see these 5 testimonials saying Martin is really good. Because the way that works is social proofing. I can say I'm great, but if you say I'm great, then in your potential buyer's mind, that weighs a lot. So for example, another example I'll give you to validate this, if you want to get a new computer and the company says, our computer is great and blah, 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 whatever, but then you turn around, go look for reviews online, how many people, other people are saying that computer is great?
Yeah.
So 5 people are telling my other potential customer, Martin is great. He is really good producing podcaster. His quality service, I recommend highly to you. So that's 5 people. So now Martin can raise his rate from $50 to $100, and then he's in business.
Wow. That's great advice. So how much I owe you through PayPal?
We'll make it work.
That is really good advice.
If you think about it, if you keep it that simple, obviously there's more depth you can go into, like getting your more like streamlining the process and things like that. But if you just follow this small blueprint, you could easily make $1,000 a month, no doubt.
Wow. See, that's stuff that I have no idea of because I'm practically a 30-year-old child. Because I never had anybody to tell me about these things or anything. So here I am, trying to make money out of these things without any sort of knowledge on how to. So hey, thank you very much for that advice. I will most definitely put it to use. Every time I work on something now, I'm going to say, hey, can you provide me a testimony for the work I did? So, Mark, we're about to hit the mark.
No pun intended.
Listen, the stage is all yours. Please provide information for our listeners on whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you want to promote. Please do so.
All right, guys. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been an honor and a blast talking to you and helping your listeners. And the people who are listening to the show, if you would like to check out Simple Podcast Cloud, just go to Simple Podcast Cloud. If you are wanting to start your own podcasting career, you're looking for a really good, reliable, and flexible host who's going to be there and to help you grow, then check out simplepodcastcloud.com. And also, if you're looking for somebody who can help you take your advice, just like I just did now, hypothetically speaking, and take that advice and turn it into a digital product so you can do, number 1, help other people better their life. Number 2, help them get result. But lastly, make some extra money for yourself. And the reason why I say extra money for yourself, I put it at last, because there are plenty of people out there who's going to tell you, do it for the money, do it for the money, do it for the money. And then what happens is that money will not come to you. I can vouch for it, speaking from experience, because when you put money first, people will see it and they will stay away from you. However, if you put people first, help them first, help solve their problems first, and not even worry about the money, trust me, you're going to make 10 times more than you would if you put money first, because I can guarantee you this thing is going to validate it for you. Let's say hypothetically, if you got sick, and you guys can think about this and let me know, I guess if you go there, I'll tell you how to let me know. When you got sick and you went to the doctor, was money an issue for you? How much you're going to spend, or you getting better? Which one was the top priority? You can send me an answer by going to markkumar.com and then click on contact, and send me the answer there. I would love to hear your answer.
All right. Mark, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast as well. You guys can go listen to it on Simple Podcast Cloud. So thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise, man. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, to our listeners, if you would like to support the podcast, you can do so on anchor.fm. There's a little thing there to support the podcast. You can do so with $1.99, $4.99, or $9.99. It's pretty simple. Just a little assistance for it. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you guys on the next one. And bye-bye.